The realest shit I ever had to say. What do you do when your back is against the wall? For me, I really am tired of my own shit, and my back is literally against the wall. I am a first-time mom at 39, and I am facing all the life changes you can imagine being a mom. And so I was really just thinking, like, my sister and I were just talking yesterday about how you really don't make changes until you're uncomfortable. And what kind of discomfort do you need to experience before you make a dramatic life change? And for me, apparently, it's this. I pulled out my microphone, I pulled out my camera, and I forgive myself for the fact that I don't really have the money right now to get therapy. And I can't keep putting this shit on my family. And the truth of the matter, amongst and beyond that, is I have tools and a lot of life experience to pull from, a lot of wisdom. Just because these are my circumstances right now doesn't mean that this is my circumstance forever and has been forever. So the lesson of what do you do when your back is against the wall? It could be anything. A new career change, a new relationship, could be dealing with a sickness, moving, etc., etc. What do we do and how do we act and how do we regain some sort of foundation and structure? And if everything is completely changed and you're a clean slate, what are you going to do about it? And that's kind of where I felt like I was right now. If I am moving forward as a totally new person, back against the wall, I have a baby to take care of and doing it on my own, how do I show up and what are some actions that I would take? For one, I had to get the fuck out of my own way. The only person that's stopping me from living the life of my dreams is me. And my dream has just been simply to live a remote, free life and not have to, one, work for anybody, because that's like a non-negotiable for me. And before I had a baby, it was to live remote, travel, and have a lot of experiences and just be able to take in the fullness of life. It's still all of those things. Now I just have a microscope of somebody that I want to be a solid example for. So back against the wall, I need to figure out how to be my happiest version of myself, be able to support myself, have the freedom and the free time to be a mom full time, and what that looks like balancing my work, what that looks like balancing my work while my baby girl watches me work. And I'm setting up the tone for her for how she will see her life with her relationship with work. Also, how she'll see her life with her relationship in relationships. So this back against the wall thing is primarily because there could be a circumstance in life where you think it's going to work out, where you can depend on, rely on the support of somebody else. Or at this point in my life, I would have thought I would have been more financially secure, but because I take so many risks and life just comes at me a little friggin' fast and furious, I am shifting gears really fast. It's all on me now, and it's always been all on me, but like all on me with a little one. Brand new. So it has to be, what do I do with these circumstances? How do I navigate them? And at this point, I've got a lot of information that I am pulling from the past and from my own wisdom and bringing them into this season. A season of becoming a mom, and this whole thing is not necessarily going to be about being a mom, even though like that is my current life situation. But being a mom and having the polarity of somebody watching you, and then thank God I have the ability to observe myself, seeing what tools I've used, and knowing that I've wanted to be a teacher of these things for a long time. But when my back is against the wall, so to say, and I am raising a child by myself, and I have to figure out how to support myself and still create the life of my dreams and yada yada blah blah blah, how am I navigating that? Speaking about it is really huge for me because I cannot somatically hold on to it in my body. One, I have to release it. It needs to go. I also know that because I have practice in nervous system work, I'm able to, one, acknowledge that it's there, and then start to work on what it's like to release it. And that was something that I was like, okay, well, I will start with creating some type of resource to share with people on not only the importance of feeling what you're feeling, but the, like, why you would feel what you're feeling. And so when I'm navigating this season of my life where I'm just literally back against the wall, if I can acknowledge what I'm feeling, then I can kind of work from the practice that I was doing before of acknowledging and observing myself gave me the ability to know who I am, and know who I am in the sense of like how I work, how I show up, what is true and authentic to me, because true and authentic is like meaning that you would have had to see where you were lying to yourself, seeing where you were people pleasing, being really honest, etc., etc. And so really just coming down to like, okay, how do I react when I'm in stress? How do I react when I'm healthy? And knowing all of those things plus more of who am I? And so when I start to be deregulated, let's say, I can look at my machine, me, and because I've done a user's manual in a way of like, how do I work? What do I show up as? And then I can troubleshoot from there. So I am back against the wall. I'm figuring out what I can do. I can look at myself and acknowledge, okay, this is me deregulated. This is, I can acknowledge this feeling coming up. It's either shame or guilt or confusion, or when you're using nervous system words like fight or flight and fawn or freeze, these sort of things, like it's easy for you to say, oh yeah, I was in that state or whatever, but can you acknowledge when you're in that state? And then what are you going to do about it? Because I can really acknowledge when I'm in fight or flight or freeze, or the other one is fawn, and I think that one's really interesting because I would imagine that I'm not in that one very much, and I actually am, especially when it comes to love relationships. Because especially in this current situation, I didn't really want to, I've always been okay with being alone, but I was scared to navigate this season of my life alone. And the truth of the matter is I'm not alone. There's a baby. She's now my center of life, but she's not, she's completely reliable on me, or reliant on me. So, being able to use the tools that you've been learning are way more valuable than collecting more. And we don't always have an opportunity to use the tools that we were learning until maybe later, or just like sort of kind of dust them in there. And then like, how do we practice those things? Like, where do we get the safety? How do the relationships that we have show up in ways that we can practice? Okay, well, I'm not going to be in this fight or flight anymore. I'm going to show up in a better way. I'm going to stick up for myself, create boundaries. I'm going to acknowledge that I'm scared, and I'm going to try to choose something different. We don't always get the opportunity to try those things. And then when your back is against the wall and you have to try them all, like, where do you reach for your toolbox? What is in your toolbox, so to say? And like, what drives you in order to do the things that say, okay, now I'm going to have to do this. For me, I'm going to have to do this dream I have. I'm going to have to follow through whether I like it or not. And that's so stupid to say, but I don't have a choice anymore. There's not really anything left to do. I'm at the end of the road. And so I start pulling from all my toolboxes. I no longer can keep my voice silent. I no longer can allow my voice to be unvalidated. I need to show up as my fully expressed self, because there's just first of all, there's nothing else to do. I have to show my cards. Like, it's time to just be like, you know what, this is who I am, this is where I am, this is what I want, this is how I'm gonna get it. And as a matter of fact, you could think I look stupid in the meantime, and that comes with a lot of like trying to it seems a little bit inauthentic to try to always curate how you look. and how other people will perceive you, because it doesn't really matter. Like, other people are going to see you the way that they're going to see you, and when your back is against the wall and you're going to ask other people for their advice on how to navigate out of it, if they haven't done it, how are they going to give you advice? They're going to tell you how they would navigate it, and they didn't get to your life circumstances. It's on you. And so there's not like a clear necessary map on how to do these things. It's just, if you could kind of understand yourself a little bit better and know how you're going to respond to life and how you're going to react when life is putting you in a hard spot, when you have to show up as your fully expressed self, because there's really nothing else. I've been stripped of everything. Not only have I tried a lot of things, but I've also just been stripped of everything. And now I would rather just walk down the street naked and let everybody see me for who I am than to play a game anymore. And it's not even like I really felt like I was playing the game. I've spent 17 years between counseling, therapy, coaching, retreats, books, courses, master classes, you name it. I have been doing the work, so to say, but when your back is against the wall, all of the work comes out and you have to do it. I'm very inspired, even though it's like my very good friend, she's got her story out there on Instagram, and the story is something along the lines of like her and her husband were down to like $4 and barely could afford a loaf of bread. She was like, I'm fucking going for it, I'm doing it. She was a mom of 2. Her baby was only like 4 months at the time, and she was nursing, and it's like there comes a certain point where you're like, I'm not playing around anymore. I'm going to do this. And it's very inspiring. And sometimes that just has to be the case. Like, good on you if your life just was like, oh, I'm going to do this thing, and you're going to do it. Good for you. I've done that with a lot of things. But the showing up and constantly showing up and creating something hasn't been the easiest thing for me. It has been, I wanted to curate something or make it perfect. And the reality that my spiritual teacher teaches, that I'm so a big fan of, is limitations create style. The limitations I have right now is I've never navigated a baby. And right now I am literally bouncing her foot in the little bouncy seat. And there's no time to get dressed and put makeup on. And I really am not even that person anyways. The reality is I would like to get my hair done, and I'm a hairstylist, so that'll be happening sooner than later. But I cannot like put on the show before I show up for the show. It's just not that's just not the case anymore. I'm not the type of person that will curate every single detail and then present it. I have a lot of information inside of me, and it works a lot easier if I just put it out there. And I think a lot of people, myself included, have a lot of gifts and a lot of insight and a lot of talents that we are too afraid to just say, I have this talent, here it is, like come and get it, basically. And not only do I feel like I could support those people, and I have supported those type of people with my career behind the chair is very much like supporting people with their dreams and sharing with them. But it's more like now it's me. And so while this project, so to say, this podcast will be a version of me using it as therapy, it is still a respectably curious about what does myself, what do I do when my back is up against the wall, but also thinking for whoever's listening, what do you do when your back is against the wall? There's the opportunity to ask for help, and I think in the beginning of my pregnancy, I really thought that it was somebody else's responsibility to save me. One in particular, not necessarily my family, who has been very supportive, but the person who got me pregnant. It's very easy to be like, it's somebody else's fault. It's somebody else. I'm a victim, and really just stay in that mindset. Or you could look at it like, okay, I know who I am. I have this experience. I need to remember who I am and show the fuck up. There's the total freeze where you do nothing at all. And I've been there as well, where you're just like totally handicapped by what's in front of you. And I get that. I think I'm still there. But today I had to make an action. And when your back is against the wall like this, the action, what did I quote that says, purpose doesn't come before action. Action creates purpose. And I'm totally down with that. Totally. You need to create some action. And this is where I am. I'm in action. And I'm acknowledging the ways that how interesting and funny it is that when you have some type of dream or something of that way and you really just are at your wit's end, some people like myself, you really just have to make a change, and you have to take on the consequences of what that change looks like. And navigating it is brave and courageous. And I say this to all my friends that I'm watching making changes. My favorite thing about my own self and my friendships that I've created is in the last month and a half, 2 of my friends have messaged me with celebrating the fact that they gave up a long-time job. They're making a change. They're doing something different. And I would be curious as to what their back against the wall stories were, what really was the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you need? What life circumstances puts your back up against the wall? I didn't know. I had totally thought, rock bottom was 3 lifetimes ago. A bad boyfriend in 2018, I thought was a rock bottom for me. And interestingly enough, I wouldn't say that becoming a mom is not rock bottom. It's just such a transformation and such a it's an honor. And so looking at it from that point of view of, it's not woe is me, life is so bad and I need to fix it and etc. It's just that actually life is so good in so many parts of it that I need the other parts of it to make balance so that I can continue to accept this level of joy. And that actually is a better way to describe it, is my life is so good in certain parts of it that it's up to me to balance out and keep the other part going really well so that I can enjoy the joy in my life, so that I'm not stuck in, this side of my life is really hard and challenging, but this side of my life is really good. And so that's kind of, it's also a riding the fence. I no longer want to live in this survival, challenging aspects of life. I want to just live in it's joyful, it's exciting, it's easy, I could do this, and I can do this. This showing up and sharing isn't the hard part, it's putting it out there. That's the hard part. And we'll see how that goes. I really don't know how much effort it's going to take until I do it. I have been so scared for so long to just put it out there thinking somebody's going to judge me. And the reality is someone's either going to judge me that I can barely take care of myself and my kid, or someone's going to judge me for doing my absolute best and showing my true face on the internet and calling out all the other people who are navigating hard life circumstances too. So, back is against the wall. I'm showing up as my most authentic self. I've got no makeup on. I'm in postpartum body. My hair looks a mess. It's gray. My baby's sleeping in her little bouncy chair. I have been recording the sort of back end of it. I am going to figure out how to navigate this season with the most grace and love that I possibly can, but I also am not going to back down. There isn't another choice I can make. This is it. So the lesson that I would, or the question, or the respectably curious is, maybe your back isn't against the wall, but maybe you do need to make a really big change. And what would that change look like before it put you up against the wall and said, you have to make a change? It's time for you to follow through with what you said. It's time for you to lose the weight, change the career, leave the relationship, make the move, etc., etc. It's time for you to do something. And maybe you haven't met that that version of you yet, or that circumstance. Maybe you actually need to create it. Maybe you're in it right now, as a matter of fact, and you're trying to figure out what it looks like. The best thing I think anybody can do in any circumstances in their life is honest inventory and observe yourself. And be honest, like where we are in our... we can't even be... people pleasing is a lie in general, right? Like you're doing something that you don't want to do for this other person's either admiration, acceptance, etc. Like you're lying because you don't want to do it. You're lying when you're saying that you don't mind your job, or you're happy with your body, or you're happy with your relationship. Like, acknowledge truthfully where you are and just say it. Own it. It's shitty. It's gonna hurt, but it's gonna hurt worse if you just keep ignoring it. It's like ignoring a broken leg and being like, no, it's not broken. It's fucking broken. Do something about it. And it's easier said than done. It's easy to do it in maybe your career. It's easy to do in maybe your body. It's probably really hard to do in your relationship. And then there's just like, it's really challenging to figure out how to observe yourself. The fourth way is a teaching that I want to elaborate big time on, because it's changed my life and brought me a huge sense of enlightenment. And enlightenment doesn't have to be some spiritual woo. It could be literally like, I have lightened myself of the burdens of bullshit that no longer serves me. I've enlightened myself and turned the light on, created more knowledge. Lack of light is lack of knowledge. Light is knowledge. Let's just say that. So the enlightenment is being really clear and honest about who I am, how I show up, how I feel, how I behave when I feel a certain way, how, certain activities either add or take away energy, how I show up in love relationships, career relationships, how I spend my time. Those are kind of really surface stuff, but then there's just like some really deep spiritual truths that happen in our lives that we're kind of unaware of. And I think it's really cool to look at our lives in a bigger and smaller picture to get a better grip on being more in self-authority. I think ultimately, sometimes when your back is against the wall and you start reaching for other people, you might just find that not only is self-authority the only answer, it is all you have left. Like, you can't keep asking someone to save you or somebody to insert themselves into your life when the truth might be that you're tired of having other people's judgments on you or other people's way of life on you. So there's a big reason of why I do what I'm doing in this video and podcast. There's some tools as to what I use, and hopefully just some like relating. A lot of times just telling on myself. I've seen in my past, like behind the chair, that a lot of people are going through something really similar, and it's nice to just hear it. I think that there's also a level of fuck it, I can't do everything perfect, and the truth is, when I listen to anybody worthwhile, they're kind of in fuck it, and nothing is perfect either. This is what it's going to look like, this is what I'm going to look like, but I'm going to still keep showing up because this is where I'm at. Back's against the wall. Trying to figure it out from here.